undergrad, I didn't learn a lot about behavior disorders and learning disorders. As a teacher, you have lots of students who come in with behavior and learning disorders, but you aren't given the tools of how can I make this student's educational experience the best that it can be.
Welcome to Key Connections for Educators. I'm Nate Key.
And I'm Hannah Connect.
I got my start in corporate training.
And I started out as a classroom teacher.
But the conversations between us, they've made us better educators.
And now we're inviting you into those conversations because learning out loud together changes everything.
So whether you teach students or you train professionals, we believe these conversations can connect us all. Welcome back to part 2 of our conversation with Sarah. In the first part, we explored her education journey and her experiences as a student teacher in Kentucky.
But in the second half, we will see how each day in the classroom, guided by advice from mentor teachers, transformed her from a cautious beginner into a self-assured educator, ready to take on her own students. Sarah opens up about her hopes and dreams as she steps into special education, the kind of classroom she wants to build, and the advice she wishes she could give to her younger self.
If you've ever doubted yourself at the start of a new chapter, Sarah's story is proof that the right experience and the right people can change everything. Let's dive in.
As someone fresh in the field, what's your read on the current education landscape? What excites you about the profession right now? What challenges are most pressing, especially for early career teachers that you're seeing? Maybe you've heard from your own peers who are entering the profession.
Something that I'm honestly really excited about, but also a little nervous about is using AI. AI has been able to help me with so many different types of lesson plans. It gives me so many ideas. It helps me wrap my head around things a lot. But I also don't like AI because my students have figured out, okay, well, I don't know the answer to this. Let me just look it up. They don't think about the deeper thought process anymore. That is what scares me. There's no one who's really thinking outside of the box. They're asking a computer to do it for them. So that is definitely something that I worry about a lot. I'm not going to tell my students not to use it, but there are certain things that it needs to be used for and certain things that we don't need to use it for. And I think that when I do start a class of my own, that's going to be one of the main things that I'm teaching. Like, technology is very helpful. It helps you a lot, but it also hinders you. Don't let technology take over your brain.
I am 100% in agreement with that. When you're teaching first graders math, you don't give them a calculator.
No.
They need to learn math facts and understand how numbers work. But when they get older, you don't have to use rote memorization of every single math
Right.
fact. We can use a calculator to shortcut it because you understand how math works. But we can't get to that place where you're showing me exactly what to do, but I have no idea. I'm copying this down, but then when it comes time for me to do it, I can't do it because I'm just watching you do it, writing it down, and there's zero connect. And I see that as what AI is doing. I can go get the answer, but I have no idea how to answer that question on my own.
The foundation really needs to be built before you start using these things that help you. If you have no foundation, it's not going to help you. It's more going to hinder you. I do love AI, but I'm half and half on it at the moment.
What I'm hearing you say is we as educators need to pause and consider how we want to teach our students how to critically think for themselves.
Yeah.
And not allow or enable AI to replace the critical thinking, the analysis piece for students to process that information. We want to make sure that we also are holding space for our students to utilize their own creativity rather than leaning wholeheartedly on AI to do the creative process for them, but for them to dabble in that and get a feel for what it means to be in the creative flow themselves so that AI doesn't just replace that element of learning.
I think that, especially with creativity, a lot of the times kids can just look up, what's something that I can do for this instead of thinking, what am I passionate about? what is something that excites me and interests me, and how am I gonna bring it to life? How am I gonna make it exciting for myself and other people? I think that AI is really taking that and making it into its own thing, but we need to be able to do this for ourselves. Sometimes I sit back and I'm like, I don't need to use AI to do this. I can think, I can brainstorm and use my own head. It's crazy to see how AI has changed everything.
Yeah, I think it's also gonna for us as educators to again hold space, but pull out a little bit because honestly, the current curriculum is not conducive to the reality of AI in our world. And so, for us as teachers, how can we pull out a little bit in order to teach the thinking behind some
Mhm.
of the maybe doing that the curriculum is asking the students to do so that we really are teaching the thinking process as well?
Yeah.
I love that.
I think this ties in so beautifully to your idea of the importance of self-reflection. I'm gonna use it, but I need to use it thoughtfully. And I'm wondering, and this is just brainstorming between the 3 of us, like, what are some ways that we could potentially say, "We know as students you're gonna use AI because it's available. So I am going to build in parts of this class where we are going to use it thoughtfully, but I'm also gonna ask you to hold the AI until we get to that place." Do you have any ideas, either one of you, about where does that belong and how do we teach students to use it thoughtfully and ethically?
I think that you really need to start by yourself using your own brain to brainstorm. After you do that, you can write it all down, maybe put it into AI and be like, what do you think about this? Maybe expand on this for me. But I don't think it should ever do the thinking for you. I don't think that it should ever come up with the ideas for you. AI doesn't know you. It doesn't know your opinions or how your mind works. Even if people use AI, the other people who know them know that that's not how that person talks or how that person thinks. So you can use AI, but just take bits and pieces of it. Make it your own.
Even in developing prompts, it requires us to utilize our creativity, our brainstorming capabilities. And as I've been working with AI, I've been noticing that I need to bring my own creativity to it to prompt it to give me the output of something that I actually would use rather than just something that's generic. Does that make sense?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm with you, even in the creative process. Like ChatGPT, yes, you are there, but you are a platform. Let me just first do a brain dump on myself, whether it's through an actual handwritten note, because I'm still very kinesthetic and that helps me, or if it's on a Word doc, writing down my thoughts and putting in a plan. And then from there, that's where we can get our prompts or additional questions. So when I'm thinking about a report or something creative that my students are going to do, my first thought is let's hold off on ChatGPT until we've got a solid game plan that's really personalized to us. And then we can expand, we could turn this into a prompt or what have you.
I'm interested in special education because you're going to get your master's in special ed. What drove you towards that particularly, and what made you decide that you're not just going to get an overall teaching degree, but you really wanna specialize in special education?
So I always knew that I wanted to get my master's after getting my undergrad. And I originally was going to get it in educational leadership, thinking that I wanted to eventually become a principal. After watching the principal at my school have to do all of the things, I was like, that seems really boring. I like being in the classroom and I like teaching. I don't like the admin side of it. I don't like disciplining, things like that, like planning booster PTA events. In first grade, I had this one girl and she has autism. And her and I got really close. And it was so inspiring seeing all of her classmates not thinking about her disability. She was just another normal student. Her mind didn't work like all of the other first grade students, but not in a bad way. She processed things differently. She was able to grasp concepts differently, which made me think, okay, how can I help her do this? Because a lot of the times, especially in undergrad, I didn't learn a lot about behavior disorders and learning disorders As a teacher, you have lots of students who come in with behavior and learning disorders, but you aren't given the tools of how can I make this student's educational experience the best that it can be. So I really wanted to go into special ed to find out more about these students, find out ways that I can help them, find accommodations that will work best for them, really be able to keep them in the general education classroom. I think that integrating special ed students in a general education classroom for a majority of the day is the way that they learn and grow. And I don't want to specifically be a special education teacher. I always want to stay a general education teacher, at least for the first couple years. But I really wanted to get my master's in special ed because it was like, how am I going to help these students if I don't know about their disabilities?
I think that's really remarkable that you're thinking that way about saying, how can I break down the barriers that would create an environment in my classroom that's less disabling?
Uh-huh.
Because you and I and Hannah have all had that same experience where, you know, there are people that learn differently. And for the person that learns exceedingly differently, that might actually be a disadvantage if we only teach one way.
Mhm.
I see you saying, I want to create an environment where everyone has the best opportunity to be the best educated as they possibly can. And that means learning a lot about other people. I do think there's a struggle that a lot of educators have today, and that is students that have specific needs in their education. It's hard for teachers to manage all of them, right? Because you could have 15 kids in a class of 20 that all have different needs. As somebody that's going through that, what's your advice to those educators that are trying to juggle all these different ways of creating access?
I think that you really need to listen to the students. A lot of people do not put the student's perspective or their opinions onto things, but you have to think this is their experience. This isn't just your classroom that you're teaching. This is their learning experience. You need to make them feel safe and loved and comfortable. But also, I want them to be able to say, Miss Monahan, I need to learn this way. This helps me. Just having them tell me what works best for them helps me so much. They're actually able to tell me. It was a little harder with the first graders because they are first graders, they're very new to school, but especially with the fifth graders, I would have so many come up to me and be like, "This is what really helps me, and I need this." And I'd be like, "Okay, if it helps you, we'll use it." Or, "This doesn't help me at all, like, I actually hate this." "Okay, then we won't use it anymore." I really like to get their opinions, as well as their parents' opinions. If the parents are involved, it makes my job so much harder, it makes the kids' job so much harder. So think about your students. Ask them their thoughts. They love to give input.
They do love to give input, and by doing
Mhm.
that, we're also teaching them to advocate for themselves, which is a
Exactly.
life skill as well. Yeah.
What's the advice that you would give someone who's considering pursuing a degree in education? What are some things that you think they should think about? Some things that you wish you knew going into it, and maybe some things that you would want to say to inspire them?
What I came to find out is you're not gonna be a perfect teacher after 5 weeks. You're not gonna be a perfect teacher after 16 weeks. Things take time, and you're gonna find a lot of different things that work for you and things that don't work for you. Some things work for some people, some things don't work. It's an individualized experience. I mean, there were so many people who things would work for them and they wouldn't work for me. Don't compare your teaching journey to other people's. That was something I
Mm.
struggled with a lot. I had so many friends who would get great feedback and have amazing behavior management, and I would just sit there like, "Okay, I'm not good at this." No, it really depends on you. It's about your students, it's about you. It's not about the other 3rd grade teacher that you're teaching with. So personalize it, make it fun. School's supposed to be fun. You're not their friend, you're their teacher, but after you work, it's good to play. Have some fun with them. They enjoy that.
Were there any particular lessons that you did during student teaching that were memorable, that were fun, and that you're like, "Yeah, I'm doing that again"?
I for 1st grade, I taught a unit all about light. It was a 5-day long unit. I was teaching them about opaque, transparent, and translucent. And on the very last day, I wanted something super fun for them to do. So we all got flashlights and I cut out different pieces of parchment paper, saran wrap, tin foil. And so we would hold them up to the light and see if it was translucent, transparent, or opaque. They loved it. I had so much fun and they were able to grasp that concept better by doing it hands on. If I ever teach a light unit again, that is something that I will use. In 5th grade, I did a unit about the branches of government. I'm not great with the branches of government, so I was learning with them as I was teaching them, but my last day, I thought it would be fun to make our own class constitution. I wrote out a little constitution and we all filled in parts together. And I had never seen those 5th graders so engaged before. When I was teaching, half of them would have their heads down, but they were so excited to make their own class constitution. It was fun. I loved it a lot. I would use that again in 5th grade, 100%.
I love that. Involving them. Involve.
Yes, they love the hands-on. They like being involved.
Don't we all?
It's the truth. It's the truth. Sarah, what do you remember about my 4th grade class and your experience in my class that still hangs on with you?
We just always had so much fun. You would always bring your guitar and you would sing to us. And the best part about you singing to us was by the end of the week, we were all singing with you. And I just thought that that was so much fun. That was so fun because I never had a teacher who would do that. They would throw something on the screen and be like, okay, sing along to this. But you were actually doing it with us. That made us feel super comfortable. You were our role model. It was cool seeing you do something. And then we wanted to do it as well. We were a creative class. I mean, I remember all of us would start businesses and sell things in our classroom, and we would make things for each other. And you were never the type of teacher to tell us to stop doing that. There was a time and a place for it, but you would never say, no, you're not doing this. You can do this at recess, or you can do this after you finish this. But it was never, no, you can't do that. We were very open with the way that we learned and also the way that we became ourselves. Like, you're able to help us mold into the little humans we are now.
Good. I'm so glad. And I'm all
Yeah.
about entrepreneurship. So for starting your own businesses in 4th grade, I think I remember that.
All I remember is that 4th and 5th grade, those were the best elementary school years that I had. They were so fun. The classes that you guys made, you and Mr. Connect made it so our classes were always so tight-knit. Like, I was never uncomfortable when I was in there. All of us were friends with each other. No one was scared to ask you guys questions. It was always just so fun and safe and nurturing.
Well, good.
I want Hannah to bring the guitar to the podcast now.
Did you know
I
that,
didn't-
Nate?
No, this is the first time I even heard you. I have guitars back here, and you have never shared that you play guitar. And now I'm feeling like I just learned something amazing about you.
It was awesome. It was awesome.
And your class, I actually would record us. So I still have our recordings of like math facts we used to sing, history stuff we used to sing. And every now and then I'll put it on. And Damien's like, what? Are those our kids? I'm like, yeah, those are our kids.
That's awesome.
Hey, I've got one more question. You said the word exit ticket earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it, and I think I know exactly where you're going with it, but I'd love to hear more about that phrase. Tell us about an exit ticket, an example of it, and what it looks like.
Okay, so when I think of exit ticket, you're going to hand the teacher this slip of paper as you're walking out of the classroom. Obviously, my first graders don't really walk out of the classroom by themselves. So in order to transition to the next topic or subject that I was teaching, in order to see how they were learning, what they still need help on, I would either do it in slips of paper, let them draw things. Sometimes I would have them all whisper them to me. But I would just ask them 1 or 2 questions, have them think about what their thoughts are on it, write it down, draw it, tell it to me, just to see how it grasps in their head, what I need to rephrase tomorrow, what we need to cover again, what's something that everyone was able to grasp. So it was kind of like, it was like a little thing for me to realize, okay, this is what I need to do. Like, they knew, okay, this isn't a test. This is more of a test for myself and my teaching. It was about their learning, but it was more about how I was teaching it.
A formative assessment, like
It was a formative assessment.
getting
Yeah.
engaged, getting a feel for
Yeah.
did my students understand this or not, but it wasn't formal. So that wasn't going in the grade book.
No, it was never going in the grade book. It was for me to see. And I like to do them because it also helped me think of test questions. Like, okay, they didn't really understand how I worded this question. Let me not use that question on the test because obviously they're all going to get it wrong. Let me rephrase it and put it in a different way to see if they get it. It was a lot of reflection on me, but also on them.
I am very excited about that phrase, and that's what I thought it was. Hannah and I talk a lot about the different levels of evaluation and the Kirkpatrick model specifically. And what's interesting is, Hannah, I don't even know where to put that one. It's almost like it's almost like a level 1.5.
When I taught adult learners, I'd use exit tickets. I just didn't call them that. And then that would help me the next day know what we needed to go over because I could see what they were grasping. We're good, we're moving on, or what we needed to park and just reteach and re-go over.
Yeah, it's a gauge, right? It's like the barometer
Mhm.
or the
Yeah.
thermometer in the classroom. You're looking at it going, I want to know where everybody is, but it also helps me say, okay, where am I at in my ability to communicate this effectively?
It was also a really good way for them to ask questions. A lot of the times, students are nervous about asking questions in front of the entire class, so it was also an opportunity to give them time to write down any questions they just wanted to ask me without having the entire class's eyes on them, which was nice because I was able to answer a bunch of questions.
In my world, what I've started to do is have an e-learning course that will have questions in it that aren't graded,
Mhm.
but we can see the scores. They just don't count towards a grade. And I think
Yeah.
that's a very similar aspect. You grapple with it. You can see the responses, but you don't like not pass the class if you don't answer them correctly. But then we usually have some sort of formal, quiz or evaluation later on, and that lets you get onto the next module
Yeah.
or the next section. So I think that's really that idea there is I'm letting them grapple with that. I'm letting them see how much they know. I'm also understanding as an educator, is this actually effective or not? I like creating that place where people are able to ask questions, challenge themselves, get things wrong, and have it not count.
Mhm.
And I think
Exactly.
that's really important. I don't think enough of us give people permission to get it wrong and have it not count.
I agree.
I do too. Sarah, this has been such a beautiful full circle conversation. I'm honored to have played even a small part in your journey. And it's so inspiring to see how you are stepping into your own classroom.
I have been so privileged to be able to sit with you today. Your honesty, the clarity, even the hope that you've brought. I think that our listeners are really going to walk away feeling very encouraged and even challenged to do their own self reflection as they go through their own journeys.
Thank you so much for having me. That was so much fun.
So, to everyone tuning in, this conversation is a reminder that our work as educators ripples far beyond the classroom walls. Keep planting those seeds. Let's stay grounded and let's stay inspired.
And before you go, we'd really love to hear from you in the comments section. What resonated most with you about Sarah's story? Was it the journey into teaching, the reflections on the student identity she had, or maybe even the hopes that she has for creating inclusivity with special education? Has there been a teacher that you've had, past or present, that's helped you see yourself differently as a learner or a leader? Drop your thoughts below. We do read all the comments, and your story might inspire someone else too. So if this resonated with you, please take a moment to like, subscribe, or even share this podcast with someone that you think might find it valuable. Whether it's a fellow educator, a future teacher, or maybe someone who needs a reminder of the power that we have with connection. We hope these conversations really make a difference with you.